We've just had this E46 M3 CS dropped off to us at Redish Motorsport in Bristol for a bit of a refresh. It's quite an unusual one in fact that it's a CS, not many of these about, rising in value nicely. This is a manual version, whereas lots of them were SMG models, and the owner was contemplating whether to look for another vehicle, a new vehicle, or spend some on this one, bring this one back up to specification, do some refreshing on the suspension, the bushes, the brakes, service-wise, and give it sort of a new lease of life for a good few years ahead. And that's what we're going to be doing here today. So just rattle off the list of items that it's in for. It's in for the BMW Inspection 2 service, which includes the bulb clearances, genuine BMW front discs, performance front pad set, whether that be performance friction or Rotor DS 2500s for example, tail braided brake hoses and a brake pad sensor wire obviously, full system brake fluid bleed using the AP Racing 5.1 fluid, engine constant pressure valve and a power steering high pressure hose. Then we're going to be doing a lower radiator hose with a temperature sensor, a new thermostat, anti-freeze change, a couple of fixings are missing on the fan cowling, and also a timing chain guide bolt sealing ring whilst we've got the thermostat housing off. Then we're going to the rear axle and we're going to be doing the genuine BMW subframe bushes, the rubber ones, Powerflex rear trailing arm bushes, rear anti-roll bar bushes, a diff input oil seal and the lock ring, top shaft CV joint gasket, exhaust centre nuts and bolts, stainless and copper versions, exhaust rear clamp kit, and then we're going for genuine BMW shock absorbers for the front, spring pads, pinch bolts, top bearings, the sleeves for the pistons, along with genuine BMW rear shock absorbers, CSL upgrade top mounts, the sleeves, the damper foams, and then we're going to be finishing off with a digital wheel alignment process. There's some of the new genuine BMW parts for the CS overhaul. Rear shock absorbers and the bump stops and the tubes, bolts, plates and top lock nuts, and then suspension on the front. One strut is on back order from Germany, so we're just waiting for one more to come in. But then we've got all the top and bottom spring rubbers, the protection dust tubes, the bump stops, the wiring clamp brackets and the bolts, and also the plates with the bearings in the top as well. A few nuts and bolts starting to come in for the rear end parts, and we've got the genuine BMW subframe bushes here, anti-roll bar bolts and things like that. And here's some other items, the rear trailing arm bushes, which are going to be Powerflex polyurethane, rear anti-roll bar drop links with the new bushes in there, and then some of the engine items. There's a leak coming from this plastic joint here on the lower engine radiator hose, so new temp sensor as well, thermostat whilst we're there, new BMW hose clip, the O-rings for the thermostat housing, and then whilst we've got good access we're going to do the chain tension and guide rail sealing ring, which sometimes leaks, and in this case it's starting to early mist, and also a constant pressure valve for the engine block as well. A few more items on the CS. We'll be doing this new exhaust clamps for the rear silencer at the centre joint because they've seen much better days, totally corroded, broken, sections missing. We need to check the flares on both sides to make sure they're not broken. If they are, then they're going to need exhaust replacements, but normally if it's just the clamps that are cracked, then there's good enough kits nowadays you can buy to repair those. So new clamp kit there. One exhaust rubber on the rear silencer is just separated itself from the inner bush, whereas they're meant to be solid. So new rubber mount for the back end, and then 6 of the copper copper lock nuts from BMW. Centre exhaust heat shield has lost one of its studs, so we'll take all of those off. They're likely to break when we take them off. We'll weld 4 new studs, use the correct anti-vibration washers, new line lock nuts, and then we've got the centre section. Nuts and bolts have corroded far beyond their original size and won't come undone ever again, so whilst we've got great access we'll cut through those, and then also put far better than BMW, we'll upgrade the bolts to an A2 stainless bolt there, and then use BMW's copper coated lock nuts for the connection points to do them back up. And here's a Diff Seal for the input diff input seal with the lock ring as well, and the all-important prop shaft CV joint paper gasket. Here's the BMW genuine brake disc, the CS and CSL 345. New genuine BMW pad sensor, and we're going for the Ferodo DS 2500 brake pads. High pressure steering hose, the one that goes from the pump to the steering rack, along with the banjo bolt sealing rings. Also disc grub screws there, and there was one Torx fixing missing from the fan cowling plastic housing, so we get those on next. Got the front BMW brake discs on and the Ferodo DS 2500 pads. New BMW struts there on the front right. I'm just working on the engine bay items now. Had a couple of fault codes for I forget what exactly they were, but we whittled them down to water related. So we're doing the lower hose because there was a leak from the thermostat to the lower hose joint around about here. Water outlet sensor, which was troublesome, and we're also taking a liberty to do a thermostat at the same time whilst we've got that disconnected. Had a water leak from this bottom joint, which was quite crusty, which was surprising. And there's the water outlet there on the thermostat. So we replaced that rubber mount on that side there. One nut didn't survive the swap over, so new copper nut there. New BMW, well not BMW, but aftermarket clamp kit there with the solid gasket and crushable gasket. And we've got A2 stainless bolts in that joint there. And then also center nuts and bolts to hold the center section to the catalytic converter, and that's BMW copper nuts and A2 stainless bolts. The refresh work on the M3 CS is finished. We're just going to run through the items that we fitted. Genuine BMW subframe bushes ×4, Powerflex polyurethane trailing arm bushes, a pair of those for the rear axle. Rear anti-roll bar drop links, which come with the new rubber bushes, top and bottom. Diff input seal, oil seal was replaced because it was leaking. We've cleaned up the oil leak on the front of the diff housing. On the exhaust system, the centre nuts and bolts were corroded beyond original size, so new stainless A2 bolts and copper BMW nuts are fitted there. Rear exhaust clamps had to be fitted because the old ones were corroded and cracked. But it also turned out the flares of the exhaust were split, so it had to have a used exhaust rear silencer and a used centre section that had good flares, and we've matched them with, again, A2 stainless bolts and a mixture of a stainless and a copper nut system on the rear, with a new BMW crush sleeve, solid ring sleeve in there. Then moving on to the suspension, we've got the BMW genuine shock absorbers for the front, with new fixing bolt and bracket for the wiring systems, new bump stops, top lock nuts for the top mounts, new bearing cassettes for the top mounts, and also those dust boots as well. It's also had rear shock absorbers at the same time, again genuine BMW items with the lower bolts. Top mount kit from the CSL models, so that's an upgraded item with the sleeves or guide tubes and new bump stops, both sides for the rear. Also done a full wheel digital alignment to include front and rear toe and cambers all round where necessary. And some items that aren't visible on this video because they're hidden in the engine bay under that cover. We've got lower radiator hose, temperature sensor with the O-ring, thermostat and the 3 O-rings, new antifreeze, timing chain guide rail bolt and a fan cowling Torx bolt. Then onto the braking system. So genuine BMW CS and CSL size front discs, which are the 345mm. Then Ferodo DS 2500 brake pads, along with a new brake pad wear sensor. Hell braided hoses, which we've kept black in an OEM colour, which have gone all round the car. 4 hose kit with the correct systems to retain them on the trailing arm and on the front strut mounts. It's been bled with AP Racing 5.1 fluid. Also done a constant pressure valve up in the engine, which was showing signs of leaking down the engine block. Just see it in the distance up there, and the engine oil was cleaned. It's had a power steering high pressure hose for the power steering rack, from the pump to the rack. New power steering fluid, sealing rings and a bleed. And the last item we did was the exhaust rubber mount for the rear silencer. One new rubber mount and a set of BMW copper lock nuts as well. Time for a snow foam wash, and that's just to stop any of the contaminants that are on the paint being rubbed in when we go for our shampoo wash. So snow foam wash first, and then rinse that off next. So snow foam's rinsed off, and now it's time for the Iron X. That's the shampoo wash with the Maguire's shampoo and Ramsel mitt, the 2-bucket method with grit guards. So now the outside is shampooed, we can rinse that off. That's the vehicle clean, finished on the M3 CS, which has been in for a refresh process at Redish Motorsport, and now that car is ready to go back to the customer.